So art is dead, and we should talk about it. And I don't mean that in a literal sense. I just am starting to realize certain things that are leading to the demise and kind of the idea that art will not be the same as it once was. The reason why I say this is because recently I watched a show, and for the entire episode, I literally did not laugh one time. And it wasn't because it was unfunny. It was more so, I think that my dopamine receptors are just fried. Also, side note, if you can hear the plows and everything outside, it's just snowing where I'm at. So, genuinely, I watch a lot of YouTube. And what that kind of does is that it shows you a lot of like the best content. And honestly, that's more Instagram and TikTok. But on those apps specifically, it's made to show you the best content, the things that are going to make you stay on the apps longer. On Instagram, I'm constantly seeing these super funny videos, and I always share them and I always send them to my friends. But what I think that does is that by the end of the day that I get off of Instagram or TikTok, I've consumed a bunch of like highly comedic entertainment, but it also is like leaving me unsatisfied with something that might be a little bit funny. Me and my friends used to do this thing in high school where we'd be like, oh, like neck. You would be like, you would put neck at the end of everything, and it was the most hilarious thing ever. And now, if you were to have something, and I guess like the closest thing to that right now is like the 6'7" thing, but like those trends come and go. Like that is more so just like a cultural trend amongst the youth. But I believe that when you're constantly being fed something that is meant to hit your dopamine receptors just the right way to keep you on the app and to keep you engaged, when you have that interaction with something that is anything less than that, you can't actually feel anything. And so I thought about this in the idea of like dating and all these other things. But especially with art, it's like with art specifically, if I see something and I'm like, oh, that's pretty good, I think now we're getting trained to believe that that pretty good thing is not that good at all. And because it will not invoke any sort of emotion. The only emotions that are going to be invoked are laughter and relatability and things that make you want to like share. And something that is super funny or super sad or super crazy and just out there is more likely to be something that's impactful for you than something that is boring or long or meaningful, but you have to sit there and you have to take time to understand what is going on ahead of you. Some of the most profound pieces of art throughout history have been those pieces where in today's day and age, they would be boring or kind of mid. I think that with AI being implemented into these systems, we're seeing the rise of this like hyper fixated mindset of like consumerism, and it's not necessarily like advertisements. It's more so the fact that it's just engaging content, and like everything is content now. Art is content. It is not art in itself. It's your art is your content. And I see a lot of people that are like on TikTok, they say don't make art, make content, because of the fact that they're two separate things. But when you're an artist who is constantly making content, what's the point in making art anymore? Like when they're supposed to be hitting someone's dopamine receptors, it's not about making something that like interprets the world or is your own personal journey or story. It is literally just regurgitating something that someone else said is going to make good content. So when I say art is dead, is because it doesn't have the focus anymore. The focus is on making good content. The focus is on literally just being relevant for that duration of however long your video is. So the question becomes, where does this all go? If you have a generation who is either on the end of pumping out all of this content for people to consume, and a generation that is also just made to consume this content 24/7 at a very, very high rate, where does that leave art? Do artists have to conform to this system, and are they going to make art that is compelling enough to compete with this? I don't think that that's possible. And this is me just saying it as an artist, is that I don't think that it's possible, because art does take time. It takes time to learn it. It takes time to implement it. It takes time to kind of like be able to put it out there for other people to critique or even just observe it. So when I think about like where does art go, I think that it just eventually goes underground again, and art becomes this thing where only the people that seek it out actually find good art, and it becomes something that's very small and like within smaller communities and groups, and not something that's as widespread as content and kind of AI. So human art will become this silent revolution of small creatives who don't necessarily care about being online, and are more so like in fact in communities and kind of like fostering that way. So a thought that comes to mind is when Mos Def said that Drake makes music that's compatible with shopping malls. And I think that like one thing that should be talked about is how much music starts to feel like just purchasing power. And it's just the idea that all of this is to eventually make music about going to a certain place and buying things. The one thing about that moment is that Drake's music does kind of reflect this lifestyle, and a lot of like what goes on in rap does reflect that lifestyle of spending and buying and consuming. And I don't have a problem with it. It's just something to be observed. And one thing about like when you look at mainstream music, it mirrors the collective consciousness of the people that are consuming it. And so I think like right now we are living through an age of hollowness in music, where people do feel empty and they feel like they want to relieve that hole that's left through buying things and being able to purchase a lot of shit. Where like what I'm getting at is that art used to be something that was to be able to be rebellious. It was able to heal. It was able to do all of these things and like show us the world through the eyes of this artist who we may or may not have ever met in our entire lives, through song and through video and through this essentially just storytelling. It's visual storytelling, it's auditory storytelling, it's literally just storytelling. And that is something that has been innate in humans forever. And so when you have something like that become a commodity, it no longer is about telling the story of something that's meaningful. It's just telling a story. So I think that like what is happening is that people are starting what's happening is that people are starting to tell the same exact story over and over and over and over again, where these high-paced edits, they're very, very cool, but they're so dopamine riddled that people aren't able to feel anything anymore. So like when they hear a story and they say, well, I think that the writing is just bad. I think that one thing that is happening right now is that people don't even understand the side effects of social media. And even if we do, we aren't going to stop using it, because it is still a tool for us to be able to be heard and for us to be able to be seen. Us as consumers, we should notice the patterns of, well, now I'm only consuming this art that is either so overwhelmingly like curated by a team of people, or it is designed to maximize the amount of time that I interact with it. Us as consumers, we have a duty to protect not only the artist, but ourselves from all of this shit that's going on. So what that looks like is, instead of just trying to find the biggest artist or the newest thing, it's literally just look at the lineup at your local shows. Like if you have venues in your local city, look at the lineup, go check out some of the artists. Just like take time to do that and meet people in real life. It's like reality is not as crazy as social media, but it is pretty fucking wild. So if you don't want art to die, how about you take time to interact with it in reality, because it does still exist out there, and it's getting harder and harder to be an artist in this day and age and make it and be able to just say that you're doing it. This is my first year of doing art essentially like full time, and it's hard. Like I had to sacrifice a lot of stuff. And on top of that, I don't have a car. So it's like I'm literally figuring out how to get all of my camera gear to a location, film, and then get back home without getting robbed. So whenever I can, I love people just like coming and seeing a show or anything like that. I really want to like I really would love to hear what other people have to say on this topic of like art dying and AI and anything really under that realm. So if you feel compelled, like, subscribe, and leave a comment, and let's keep this conversation rolling. Until next time, my name is Freddie Flacco. Thank you for watching the video. I'll see you guys later.